Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, TikTok. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? How are you? How are you? Good morning. Good Monday morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is January 27th. Can y'all believe it? Happy Monday. Happy Championship Monday. Yes, that's right. Championship Monday. Good morning to you. Do me a favor as you're logging in. Tell me where you are. Good morning, Minister. How are you? Tell me where you're logging in from. Also, hit that like button. Hit that share. Hit that like button. Hit that share. TikTok, if you can do the same. And YouTube, if you can do the same. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Good morning. How's everybody? I'm going to wait a couple more seconds. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get this party started. Do me a favor, if you can hit the like button and hit the share. And let's get some people on TikTokers. Good morning. Let's get this party started. So, how's everybody? Today is Championship Monday, and Philly is going to the Super Bowl, and everybody is super, super excited. And so, hey, it is what it is. What can we say? We did it. We bleed green. We bleed green. We bleed green. All right, let's make this happen. So today we're going to talk about knowing your limits. Knowing your limits. What does that mean, Dr. K? What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that we should know our limits. What can we handle? How much can we handle? How much can we handle? Knowing our limits. Okay? Knowing our limits. And you may say, knowing our limits with what? With everything. it is important to know our limits in this season that we are in. In this season that we are in as a nation, knowing as a person, some of us wear so many hats, knowing your limits, knowing when you've had enough. Hey mother, how are you? Knowing when you've had enough. How do you know when to cut it off? How do you know when to stop? How do you know when to say no? And so today we're going to talk about, on Mind Your Mind Monday, knowing your limits. Knowing your limits. It's important for us to know our limits. When we think about minding your mind, when you think about minding your mind, and listen, before we really dive into it, this is why I want you to hit the like button, hit the share button, get your friends, get your family, because I know that some of you, especially those of you that are logging on, good morning from TikTok, good morning. I know you all, some of you all that are logging on, you have people calling you, and they're calling you with things like, I'm burned out, I'm stressing, I'm overwhelmed. So you want to share and you want to get some of them on here because this is going to help them and help you, right? So knowing when you're burned out, knowing your limits before you get burnt out, knowing your limits, right? And I wanted to talk about that today because it's very important, because we have a tendency, I can't tell you how many times I get people that say, I'm just burned out. I just feel like I'm always there for everybody else. But yet when I need somebody or when I need something, it is difficult for me. Or when I need some help, nobody can really help me. And that is generally, that becomes a problem. And I'm going to tell you why it becomes a problem. Because that means that you are trying to pour from an empty cup. We should only be giving people our overflow. You really shouldn't be trying to give people from a cup that's empty. When one of my favorite examples is when you fly, right? When you're on that airplane and the airplane says, and the airline steward is giving instructions. The first thing they say is, put the mask on yourself first, right? For those of you that fly, I know that sounds familiar. And they're telling you to put the mask on yourself first. And the reason that they're telling you that is because when that plane goes down, and they tell you this, when the plane goes down, the aircraft will begin to lose oxygen. And if the aircraft is losing oxygen, you're going to lose oxygen. And if you're losing oxygen, then you can't help anybody else. And so they need you to make sure that you're not losing oxygen so that you can begin to help, first of all, everybody that's with you, and then anybody else that you can help in your immediate area, right? The other thing is they ask you, if you don't feel comfortable being on the exit row, they allow you to move, even if the aircraft is full. Now, you may not be able to move on your own if you just wanted to move your seat. But if your comfort level is not that of being in an exit row, they allow you to move. Why is that? They allow you to move because you have to first be okay before you can be in a position where you're helping other people exit in the event of an emergency. So what does that tell you? That tells you that you got to know your limits. If you're not the rescue ranger, don't put yourself in positions where you got to always rescue. But a lot of times we want to put ourselves in those positions, and then we can't handle the weight of those positions. Being the person who everybody comes to carries a lot of weight. But what happens is you got to first know your limits. Now, I'm not telling you not to be that person. I think it's great if you're that person. But in order to be that person that carries the weight when people are coming to you, giving you their stuff, you got to know your limits. You got to know when to cut it off. Let's go back to my example. When you're on the aircraft, they're telling you put the mask on yourself first, because if you start to lose oxygen, you can't help nobody else. Remember, I said also, if you are at an exit row, they offer you to move your seat if you don't feel comfortable being on the exit row. They will offer you an opportunity before the plane takes off. They say, if you are on an exit row, would you like to move your seat? Now, you may say, well, they just said the aircraft is full. Well, they allow for that. It's full if you just want to move your seat because you didn't plan to get a new seat. But it's not full if you're saying that you're not comfortable being on the exit row. And the reason that they're doing that is because they need everybody that's on that exit row to have a high comfort level of being on that exit row. Not for your luxury, but in case their aircraft go down, you're comfortable helping everybody else that needs to get off their aircraft. Okay? And if you're not comfortable with that, what they are saying is we're giving you an opportunity to move, because we need anybody that's in this seat to be comfortable rescuing everybody else. We need everybody that's in this exit seat to be comfortable being the last person off this aircraft, because we need your skill level. We need your skill set to help rescue everybody else. And what I'm saying is, in knowing your limits, if you are not the person that is comfortable rescuing everybody else, stop putting yourself in those positions. Stop being the rescue ranger because you're not comfortable with the weight. You're not comfortable with the responsibility. You yourself get overwhelmed when everybody's calling you. You yourself get overwhelmed when everybody's pulling on you for answers. Everybody's pulling on you for problem solving. Stop putting yourself in those positions. What am I saying? Well, you shouldn't be in leadership. Maybe you shouldn't be in leadership in the capacity that you're seeking to be in leadership. Maybe you should be the assistant to the leader. Maybe you should be the person that answers the phone. There's still use for you. You can still be purposeful. But that leader takes on the responsibility, whether it goes well, whether it doesn't go well, whether it's their fault, whether it's not their fault. And if you can't handle that, then stop seeking to be in that position. Know your limits. Know your limits. If you don't want to sacrifice your time for somebody else, don't ask God to give you a baby. Because it's self-sacrificing. Because even though they cute and they smell good when they come out, they take a lot of time. They take a lot of time and they take a lot of money. And to be a good parent is self-sacrificing. Self-sacrificing. You got to know your limits. And here's the thing, guys. It's okay. Nobody's going to, well, I can't say nobody's going to judge, because some people do judge. But that's their issue. That's not your issue. Know your limits. And be okay with your limits. Stop allowing people to push you in places and situations that you know you're not comfortable with. I'm talking about mind your mind. I'm talking about protecting your peace. I'm talking about being strong emotionally. Stop allowing people to push you into situations, into places, into arenas, into debt that you know you are not comfortable with, that you know you can't handle. Know your limits. As a pastor, I've been pastoring now over 20 years. And there are some things that I had to do, and I did it like right before a year, almost to a date, a year almost to the date of COVID. Not even knowing what was coming down, but because I believe I heard God with the restructure. And then, I got a lot of slack. I got a lot of people in my ear. Oh, you sure you heard God? You sure that's what God wants you to do? Yeah, I know I heard the voice of God, right? And so I walked a lonely road for a long time, because just because I heard God didn't mean everybody was going to be on board. And there were a lot of days that I myself questioned, God, did I really hear from you? Because this don't feel good. Well, when COVID broke out, I knew I heard from God, because I knew that I would not have been able to handle things the way that they were prior to me making that transition. And what happened was, so after COVID and everybody started going back to the original way, then the pressure came again. Well, when you going back? And I said, I'm not going back, because I'm not going back to that structure that I had, because the only person that was stressed out and couldn't sleep at night was me. Everybody else got good night's sleep. And if I'm going to be effective in meeting people at the point of the need, which is what ministry is, I can't go back to that. And so even now, there are times that people will ask me, when are you going back? And my answer is, I'm not going back. And if that is what you're looking for, keep looking. Because I'm not going back to that. Because I know my limits. And I know what I can handle. And I know what God said for me. And if that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. Okay? Because you got to know your limits. And let me say this to you. In knowing your limits, there's a lot of days you're going to walk alone, because people are not going to agree with what you're saying, and people are going to try to talk you out of it because it don't look like everybody else. It don't look like what they are accustomed to, and that's okay. But you got to know your limits. What are your limits? And let me tell you something. I just said it yesterday. I'm still pastoring, and I feel like I have been more effective. I have been more effective with the restructure of the ministry than I was the entire, I'll say 15 plus years prior to the restructure. But I had to know my limits. And I told the ministry that I pastor that if we were still doing it that other way, the original stuff, I probably wouldn't even be here. I probably wouldn't even be here today, because of the stress that came along with it. And the body can only handle so much stress. And that was one of the reasons why I knew I had to restructure. Because guess what? It's God, family, church. And that's a lot of times pastors don't get that. And that's why a lot of them are not here. It's God, family, church. And so what am I saying? Family comes first. And part of my limits was that nobody comes before God. Nobody and nothing comes before God. And outside of God, then nobody comes before my family. Nothing and nobody comes before my family. And I preach that. I teach that. Okay? So it's God, it's family, and then church. So even as a pastor, if you call any of my members, they'll tell you, I'm not badgering them. I'm not making them feel guilty. They want to go on vacation, take vacation. Now, I am telling them the vacation ain't every week. But I don't have those issues. You know why? Because if they call me and they tell me, all I ask is for accountability. But I'm encouraged. Listen, when we do our calendar every year, I call. Hey, Bishop, I call, especially my leaders. I'm calling them at the top of every year. Before we do that calendar, before we roll out, here's the thing. I got one better for y'all. And if there's any pastors on TikTok, I'm not telling y'all to do this. I'm telling y'all what I do. And it works for me. That's why the topic of my discussion today is know your limits. And this is what works for me. And this is what works for my leadership style. Before I plan any church events, I call all of my leaders. And I ask them, when are their family vacations? When is your family vacations? I know all of their birthdays. So I say, are you taking a trip for your birthday? Are you doing if they're married, I'm asking, are you doing anything for your anniversary? If the answer to that question is no, I'm asking why. Because I'm promoting marriage and family time. That's how all of this got started. Because my husband and I were doing marriage ministry. So I'm always promoting it. And then I'm asking, are there any graduations in their household? Because all of my leaders have children. So I'm asking about those events. Okay? The reason I'm asking them is because I celebrate all of that stuff in my family. We celebrate anniversaries. We do vacations. We celebrate graduations. And I do individual vacations. And the reason I ask my leaders, watch this, y'all, is because when I take mine, I don't want no kickback. And the reason I'm asking them is because I want them to realize that the same way I take care of myself, I want them to take care of themselves. And I support that. Now, I give them a deadline to give me the dates. Once I have all of our dates on the calendar, then I go and plan my church calendar. And guess what? Now, most people will tell you, I have all my leaders and all my stuff. There's no reason for them not to be there. Because I made sure I had their stuff on the calendar before I planned the church stuff. So I don't have no issue. So before we do church anniversaries, before we do any family and friends days, any of that stuff, I generally have my leadership stuff on the calendar. But that's what works for me. And guess what? I'm not stressed out. I'm not, well, you knew this was, I'm not doing none of that. I don't have to. Now, of course, if an emergency comes up or something that was an unplanned event, we can't do nothing about that. But for the most part, most of those special days, all of my leaders are there. Because I plan around them. And it's worked for years. I didn't start out like that. That's a strategy that I learned because I knew my limits. And I knew I didn't want to keep having to fuss and argue about this stuff. First of all, that's not God's will. That's not how we're supposed to do ministry. If we follow the model of Jesus Christ, then we're not going. That's how we do it. He had his 12, and his 12 walked with him. And those were the people that if you just look through the Bible, those are the people that he poured into. Those are the people he mentored. Those are the people that were important to him. That was his core group. And so when we're talking about people that are important to us, why aren't we making them a priority to us? It's not just about them being a priority to us. It's not just them serving and being there for us, but we gotta be there for them. And that's a part of knowing my limits. That's just. So when I say knowing my limits, I want my people to show up. Before the Eagles won yesterday, a couple weeks ago, the men in the ministry said, Bishop, we want to have a Super Bowl party. And I said, you got it. No problem. And so I asked the question, is that whether the Eagles win or lose? And they said yes. So, of course, it's better that the Eagles won. And so, anytime the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, my gift to the men of my ministry is I give them a Super Bowl party. So now that the Eagles won, is their gift. But they had already asked me about the Super Bowl party, so I was already going to host it. But those are the things that I do, because here's the thing. When we have events, the men in the ministry, they work hard to make sure I don't have to lift a finger. And so that is my gift to them, because that's important to them. So that's knowing my limits. Because once I minister, once I host a service, once I do, I'm tapped out. So in order to keep them engaged, because I know my limits, then when things are important, that's my gift to them. So what am I saying? You got to know your limits, and then you got to know how to get that stuff met. Remember that commercial? I just thought about that. It used to be a commercial, and it was advertising Kit Kat, and it used to say, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. So in order, when you know your limits, it doesn't mean, here's the thing, just because you can't do it doesn't mean it don't have to get done. So if we go back to my airplane scenario, just because you don't feel comfortable with the exit row doesn't mean somebody don't need to be sitting there. They still need somebody sitting there, so they know how to get it done. So just because just because you don't feel comfortable carrying or having everybody come to you doesn't mean those people don't have to have somebody to go to, but know how to refer. So what am I saying? When I know my limits, that don't mean I do it, or it don't have to get, that doesn't mean I do it, but it also doesn't mean it don't have to get done. I just know how to get it done. So what am I saying to you today? The Bible says, be wise as a serpent and be gentle as a dove. So just because I know my limits and I don't push past my limits, I know my limits, doesn't mean that once I reach my limit, that what needs to be done doesn't need to get done. But I know how to get it done. I know how to keep my village engaged. I know how to keep my people or the people around me. Or if they can't do it because they've reached their capacity, then I know how to get it. This is confirmation of what the Lord is saying and doing in my life. Yes. See, we push ourselves to the point of burnout, and then we get upset when everybody else is not willing to do that. There's nowhere in the Bible that God wants us to burn out. That's not what we're supposed to be doing, y'all. And one of the reasons we're walking around anxious and depressed and overworked and stressed is because we ourselves are doing things that God doesn't require. Know when to bail out. Know your limits. Know when you've had enough. It's okay. Listen, we grew up under that. Oh, you can't leave food on your plate. You can't leave things undone. Yes, you can. You sure can. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will. Yep, you can. If you put a little too much food on your plate because you thought maybe you could consume it today and you just couldn't, it's okay. Listen, you're not going to hell because you threw a little bit of food away today. Just tomorrow when you fix your plate, do a little less. That's all. But you don't have to go beyond your limits. It's okay, y'all. It's okay. Know your limits. Stop stressing yourself out. Stop. You'll be much happier. You'll be much lighter, literally lighter. You'll be a much more pleasant person. Financially, you'll be better off because you're not going beyond your limits. Last week, everybody's, doing a lot with, you see a lot on social media with the new leadership and all the things that's happening in the media and on the news. And I don't usually get caught up in that stuff. And last week, I was engaged a little more than I normally am just by watching it. And I found myself developing a little jumpiness. And I had to say to myself, kid, this is not what you do. This is not what you do. Cut it out. You're getting distracted. The word that God gave you this year was focus. And I posted that. Focus. Don't get distracted. And I had to remind myself, focus. Don't get distracted. And so I purposed in my heart, I'm not doing that this week. Because I have to know my limits. Here's the thing. I'm not at the White House. I can't control none of that. I'm not God. I can't control none of it. So I'm going to put my trust in God. I'm going to do what I can humanly do. I'm going to prepare myself as best as I can. And the rest is up to God. And I'm going to keep it moving. I'm not getting caught up because a lot of it is distraction from the enemy to get us off the course of where we should be anyway. And that is trusting God. So I realized that last week I was at my limit. I was at my capacity. So I'm not doing that this week. That's what I'm talking about. Know your limit. They had one, they didn't even get a full week. I couldn't even do it for a full week. My cup was full of that mess. So back to my regularly scheduled program. And that is Out Here Trusting God. That's my regularly scheduled program. I'm out here trusting God. That's it. And he has never steered me wrong. So that's what I'm going to do. So you got to know your limits. Know your limits, y'all. You want to protect your peace? Know your limits. Certain people you can't be around? It's okay. And here's the thing. Just because you can't be around them don't mean you got any ill feelings with them. Doesn't mean you don't like them. Doesn't mean, because people first, as soon as you say, well, that's not something I need to be doing, or I can't be with that group of people, or that's not what I should be doing, or that's not who I should be with. First thing they want to ascribe is that y'all had some kind of issue, or you angry, or you holding on to some kind of grudge. It don't mean none of that. It means that I'm at my limit. And I just can't do that. I just can't do that group. Or I just can't do them. Or that's not what I want to do in this season of my life. Many of you that follow me, y'all know I just lost my mother a couple weeks ago. But there were some people that I was still connected to because of my mother. Now that my mother is gone, those were... I have completed my capacity. So there's no need for me to keep doing that. That limit the limit has been reached. Know your limits. So that's what I'm saying to you. We talk about protect our peace. And sometimes those are the things you got to know to protect your peace. That, we don't have to be walking around depressed and anxious and, having bad attitudes and all of those things. Just know your limits. And when it's too much, say no. When it's too much, go in another direction. That's it. Point blank, period. And if it's not that easy for you, get some help. Let somebody help guide you. It's just that simple. Stop accepting things that you know you're not comfortable with. Stop going in places that you know is not for you. Don't let people push you into a place or a situation that you know takes you over your limit. Amen. All right. So that's all I have for you today. I don't like to keep you all long. I try to keep it within 45 minutes or less. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Please be looking out for some great things. The month of February is right around the corner. And I usually do a lot around heart health because that's Heart Awareness Month is February. And then I do things around women's health because that is also National Women's Month. And so we're going to be doing some great things in the month of February. Also, we have Valentine's Day in that month. So February is a big month. And then for those of you that know me, March is after February, and that is the month of my birthday. I am a March baby. And I'm one of those people that I celebrate all month. So I am liable to do anything in March. Take a vacation. I'm not buying a car this year because my car is fairly new. I did that a couple years ago. But who knows? I might end up with a new diamond. I don't know. No, I'm just teasing. But I do anything in March because I celebrate all month. I get massages. I take trips. I go to dinners. I do everything in March. I celebrate all month, right? Self-care is paramount. So we're going to do some big things. Bishop, you already know, right? So we're going to do some big things over the next couple months. I am going to reschedule that event, Finding Me 2.0, Finding Me 2.0, because I had to schedule that due to the caregiving and loss of my mom. And so we will try to pick a date to reschedule that, okay? So, listen, guys, that's it. This is your girl, Dr. K. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and share this video to those individuals that you think it would benefit. And until next week, I love you guys, and you can't do a thing about it. Stay blessed. Stay in the will of God, and have a fantastic rest of your week. God bless.